You say, Miss Willis, Judge Willis, what law did he violate? A few, but let's try this on for size. OCGA 45-11-5, extortion, subsection A. As used in this code section, the term extortion means an unlawful taking by a public law officer under color of his office from any person of any money or thing of value that is not due to him or more that is due to him. Any public officer shall be by himself, his deputy, or his agent, or other in person employed by him be guilty of extortion in receiving other and greater fees than by law are allowed him, shall be guilty of a misdemeanor, and repeat this part for me, and shall be dismissed from office. Not maybe, shall be dismissed from office.
Hey, what's going on, fam? So that clip y'all just saw was a clip of DA, District Attorney Fani Willis, discussing Paul Howard and some alleged corruption that he had. I'll be honest, I don't know the details of the alleged corruption that he engaged in. But I do know that, ironically, that clip is Fani saying that he should be charged with a misdemeanor and dismissed from office. And remember, as you guys heard the clip, she was rather aggressive in her tone that, she even made sure to emphasize not maybe, but will be dismissed from office for doing something that is almost exactly the same as what she did with her lover, Nathan Wade. Now, what I want to do before I even talk any further, and obviously, let me just say real quick about that video, is obviously hypocritical and full of hypocrisy that she's years ago, and not many, many years ago, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, 4 years max, when she was running for office originally against Paul Howard. It's obviously her statements then and her behavior and actions now make her a complete, total 1000% hypocrite. So that's number one. But before I even talk any further about her, I want to read an article, and I'm going to put the article in the link to it in the description box so anyone can read the full article for themselves if they want to. I'm not going to read the full article just for time purposes, so I'm going to start like halfway or 2/3 through to the parts that I want to emphasize and discuss further, and compare them to her actions and behavior now. So, it says here in this article from the AJC Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Willis had twice, I want to emphasize this, twice sought disqualification, meaning the same thing that she was under now, or was that the defense for Donald Trump and his co-defendants were asking for her to be disqualified and removed from the case. She was asking for that for herself. But let me go ahead and continue to read the article. And just so you guys know, this article is about how she even got in office. So the circumstances, and I'm backtracking, but I probably do need to reiterate and rehash this. The circumstances in which Fani Willis came into office were that the previous DA that was accused of all this alleged corruption was going after police officers. Why? Because one of them had murdered a black man or killed a black man who was unarmed, or some would say he was armed because he did grab a taser, but I digress. I'm not here to get into the facts of that case or dispute whether or not the officer should have actually gotten off. The point is that the previous DA saw enough probable cause to bring charges against these officers, just like Fani saw enough probable cause to bring charges against Donald Trump. The previous DA, through his review of the facts, found sufficient cause to charge the officer Garrett Rolfe, or Rolfe, it's R-O-L-F-E, but I think it's pronounced Rolfe or Rolfe, whatever, that officer deserved to be criminally charged, just like Fani Willis, again, has decided that Donald Trump deserves to be criminally charged. Now, those of us who understand systematic white supremacy understand that the fact that she was put up against him to try to get him out of office was at the very least partially related to the fact that he was going after these officers. And the article even says so, that he was doing a bunch of alleged misconduct in the way that he was conducting his prosecution of this officer in particular. And I'm going to, I guess, expound on that a little bit more, but let me go ahead and finish reading the article, or continue to read the article. But I just want to give that background so people understand which article or what this article is discussing, especially since I'm not reading the full article. So anyway, to continue on with the article. Willis had twice sought disqualification from the case, citing the conduct of her predecessor, Paul Howard, in bringing charges against the two officers. Howard's use of subpoenas is under investigation by the GBI, which is the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. It's basically the state version of the FBI. GBI, FBI. It's basically the Georgia version of the FBI, long story short. But to continue the article. And Willis previously told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that past and current members of her office are likely to be called as witnesses. The defense had filed a motion for Howard's recusal in July, arguing that the former DA's statements to the public were ethically inappropriate. Let me stop there. Another parallel between Paul Howard and Fani Willis. Some of the things that Paul Howard was saying about the case prior to it going to trial, the defense attorneys were arguing that that would prejudice or bias any jury against him, which is, of course, just like Fani Willis's church speech, where she lied and said that she paid all her special prosecutors, Nathan Wade, Anna Cross, and I don't know the other gentleman's name, but he's an RICO expert, unlike Nathan Wade, who was totally unqualified to be the lead special prosecutor on this case because he's never prosecuted a felony. He's never prosecuted a single felony, let alone one of the biggest, most complex felonies there is to charge as a lawyer, which is a RICO case. He had never even charged grand theft auto or whatever other felony you want to think about. He never charged any felony. He had only charged misdemeanors in his career because he was not really a criminal lawyer like that. So he had no experience in this field and zero experience in charging RICO cases, when RICO cases are, again, one of the most complex types of cases that a lawyer, criminal cases that a lawyer can bring, if not the most complex. I'm not a lawyer, so I wouldn't be able to say whether or not it's, the most complex, but I digress. It's definitely one of the most, if not the most. But again, I just wanted to emphasize that Paul Howard, just like with the clip that I showed where she was discussing receiving benefits beyond what was due to you, which is exactly what she was accused of, and she was denigrating Paul Howard for being accused of the same thing, because both of them got accused. And unlike Paul Howard, though, Fani Willis has actually received punishment. So those of you who know, when this video is being created and released, today is the day that she was ordered to remove Nathan Wade from her team, or remove herself from the team, which would remove him anyway. So it wasn't really a choice. She had to remove Nathan Wade, because if she didn't, she was going to be removed, which would have removed him anyway, because he was only there and on the case because of her and through her appointment of him. So you got that parallel of her receiving undue benefits, the same thing she accused Paul Howard of, and then you have the accusations of him making inappropriate statements outside of court that could prejudice potential jurors, just like she did. Okay, but anyway, back to the article. I just got to emphasize, and you guys are already seeing why I'm reading this article, because it's drawing parallels between her the behavior that Paul Howard was accused of and the behavior that she has been accused of lately. So, to continue the article, Carr, in a virtually unprecedented move, denied Willis's request for recusal, telling the district attorney that the matters are personal to her predecessor and do not pertain to Willis's office. Got to reemphasize that. He said in a virtually unprecedented, or the article says in a virtually unprecedented move, he denied the judge. Carr is the judge, okay? Carr, in a virtually unprecedented move, denied Willis's request for recusal, telling her that the matters are personal to Paul Howard. Basically, to put this in layman's terms, he said, look, that's Paul Howard's business. It's got nothing to do with you. You don't have to get off the case. You can continue to prosecute this case that Paul Howard originally brought, because you're taking over for him because you won the election against him, which I believe was backed by suspects. Let's just put it that way. And that's just me interjecting my personal opinion. But to continue to break down the article, he says again, these matters are all about Paul Howard. They have nothing to do with you, Fani. So you don't have to take yourself off the case, because the person who was the problem, which was Paul Howard allegedly, he's gone. So why are you trying to get off the case? You can continue to prosecute this criminal or suspected criminal. All right. So to continue and again, just to draw the irony of where she was begging to be taken off a case for a case that wasn't even, she was begging to be taken off a case based on actions that weren't even conducted by her. It was conducted by someone else. Yet, when she has actions that are conducted by her, she doesn't want to get off the case. Why is that? And I'll address that when I'm done reading the article. So, just to continue the article, on Friday, Fulton Court Superior Judge Christopher Brasher sided with Willis. This court finds, based upon the record that before him, that it is all but inevitable that numerous present members of the district attorney's staff, and likely the district attorney herself, will be called as witnesses for the defendant, both at any trial of this case and in pretrial matters in advance of any trial. The circumstances surrounding the calling of the above referenced witnesses and the matters about which they will be called to testify demonstrate that there exists a conflict of interest on the part of the Office of the District Attorney and the Atlanta Judicial Circuit. Let me stop right there, and I'm sorry to keep stopping, but I gotta point out some of these ironies that every paragraph I read just points out ironies compared to what's happening now. The judge's justification for granting Fani to get off the case is that she would have to be a witness or be called as a witness in her own case. Right? She would be called as a witness to testify on these so-called unethical actions of her predecessor. Again, the irony is, in this case, she was called as a witness. So, in the previous case that she was desperate to get off of, the case that was the premier national news case, because Rayshard Brooks, who was the gentleman who was murdered in this situation that she was doing her best to get off the case of, it was a big case in Atlanta because it happened, I believe, during the George Floyd protest. It was a big deal. Okay, it was a big deal at that time, and not just in Georgia. It was a kind of a national story, big deal, that someone had been killed by an officer during the George Floyd protests, which were about black people being killed by officers, which is obviously something that's recurred over and over and over and over again. So, when it came to someone being dead, all right, someone being killed, not only was she told that she didn't have to get off the case, even though she tried, but she continued to try to get off the case. Remember, it said that she had twice remember what I read earlier in the article? She had twice sought disqualification before she finally got granted. Means that she got denied to get off the case twice. She was begging to get off the case and begging to get off the case. Okay, she desperately did not want to prosecute the case, and her justification was, "Oh well, I'm going to be called as a witness, and that's going to create a conflict of interest." Yet you were already called as a witness in this case against Trump during the evidentiary hearings to try to defend yourself. Now, the irony is she didn't have to be a witness. She could have chosen not to take the stand, but she was so determined in her arrogance and her pride that she volunteered to take the stand. And you can research this. This is easily verifiable. So I didn't make that up. She volunteered to take the stand. Nobody forced her. The defense lawyers didn't have to subpoena her to take the stand. She chose to take the stand. So on one hand, out of the fear that you might maybe have to be a witness in your case, you take yourself off the case. Yet when you are made into a witness because of your unethical actions with your lover, you don't want to get off the case. And again, and the obvious question is why? What's up with that? Why the inconsistency in behavior? I'll tell you why, but let me finish reading the article. So, to continue, it says, Willis told the AJC last month that a substantial challenge awaits the new prosecutor of the Brooks case. I believe that case has layers of problems because of the way it was inappropriately handled, Willis said. I mean, again, every paragraph, every sentence I read just screeches with irony, okay? I believe that case has layers of problems because of the way it was inappropriately handled. In my opinion, it's unfair to everyone involved, and it has made things difficult for whoever ultimately winds up with the case. She struck more of an optimistic tone in a statement Friday. I expect that this will allow the case to move forward in a manner consistent with achieving a just result that all parties will have confidence in. And I'm just going to leave it there, okay? So let me go ahead and discuss this article and how it pertains to Fani Willis now. And black people, because that's kind of what my channel is, who my channel is designed to communicate to. Now, those of you who don't know, or but should know, who are those who don't know who haven't been on this channel, and those who do know who have in the past been on this channel. I don't support Democrats or Republicans. I don't believe either of them have the interests of black people in mind. Black people have unique circumstances. We're unique people. Black Americans in particular, we have unique circumstances, and we're a unique people. We have unique issues, just like we were uniquely targeted for decades via laws, via all kinds of discrimination, and we still are uniquely targeted and have unique side effects and unique residual effects from previous discriminations, let alone the current ones that some of us, if not all of us, experience from time to time still as black people. So, and I don't believe that either party is offering a remedy to that, because the catch-all, fix-all solutions, they don't work for black people. We've been doing that for decades with Democrats. They don't work. If we decided to go over to the Republicans, they're clearly hostile to anything that specifically uplifts and helps black people. It's always, what about everybody? What about everybody else? Why it's always got to be about race? And I would ask those white people, I don't know, you tell me, because y'all are the ones who made it about race from the beginning. But I digress, because that's not what this video is about. It's about Fani Willis. But I just want to point out to black people, especially black Democrats, who think that Fani and these Democrats are doing us some kind of favor by prosecuting Trump. Understand, prosecuting Trump is not going to have any direct benefit on your life. Because let's say she prosecutes Trump. What happens? Joe Biden remains president. What benefit, tangible benefit in your life that you can sincerely contribute to not Donald Trump, but to Joe Biden? What change in your life the economy is worse than it was before he became office. We have more before he got into office. We have inflation, the job market. There's nothing in your life as a black person that you can honestly tell me has drastically changed or improved as a result of Joe Biden's presidency. The reason why I'm pointing that out is because if Trump goes to prison, that will have zero benefit, zero effect on 98% of black people in this country. It will have zero benefit to us other than us feeling good because we think Donald Trump is racist, which he is, but so is Jim Crow Joe, which is why I call him Jim Crow Joe, because he's a racist. He's been a racist since the 70s. He was a big time buddy with Strom Thurmond, who was a big time open racist. Anybody can Google this and research this and find this out. You can find evidence, or not evidence, but articles or clips of Joe Biden even remembering Strom Thurmond fondly. They were friends. I'm sure if you Google Joe Biden, Strom Thurmond, you'll find that they had a previously positive relationship. You can see the clips about Joe Biden talking about how he doesn't want his kids to go to a racial jungle, which in itself is full of racist connotations. A racial jungle, when what's one of white people's favorite racist jokes about us, that we're jungle, that we're from the jungle, we're jungle bunnies, etc., etc. And he doesn't want his kids going to a racial jungle because he was against integration. So this guy was a big time white supremacist. Okay, big time Joe Biden. All right, and yes, Donald Trump is a racist too, and I don't care if any Republicans come on here and try to deny it. Donald Trump is racist, and any black person who isn't kissing the ass of Republicans can see that. Okay, which is why so many black people don't like Trump, and why so many black people were fear-mongered into voting against him in 2020. But anyway, back to the main point that I'm trying to make. When a black person was murdered, something that's been going on forever, but has been more emphasized and focused on since the Trayvon Martin killings, when she had and obviously we've seen time after time after time, these people who kill black people, most of the time unarmed, get off and off. Now, more recently, they've started to finally go to jail every now and then, some of them. But especially at first, from Trayvon to Mike Brown and on and on. Excuse me, I burped. But from Trayvon to Mike Brown and on, they kept getting off because of some kind of technicality or, basically a lot of stuff that was shady and chicanery, if you want to use that term. And again, I'm not here to review and rehash and debate every single police brutality case. But those of us, which is why my message is for black people, those of us who are honest and aren't bucking our eyes and tap dancing and shining our shoes so that we can be friends with some racist Republicans, we understand that a lot of these cases where people got off for killing black people, they should not have gotten off. Fani Willis, who I believe was selected by the Democrats and the liberal white supremacists to remove Paul Howard because he was going after this cop, and Fani Willis was not going to go after this cop, which is why she was endorsed by the police union when she was running for office, why she had the full backing of the police union because they knew what she was going to do to this case, which is exactly what she did, begged and begged and begged and begged to get off the case. And then you know what happens once she got off the case, which is exactly what she begged for? The case died. It went away, which is exactly what would happen to Trump's case if she got off that. It would die and go away. All right? Black people, draw the parallel between that and her excuses for why she took herself off the case and her attacks against Paul Howard as to why she was running. And contrast that to her behavior against Donald Trump. And understand that Fani Willis is not your friend. And personally, I wanted to see her get thrown off this case. I wanted to see her get disqualified. But she got lucky because, Judge McAfee used to work for her. So he does have somewhat of a personal relationship. He was terrified. They went ahead and put somebody up against him for election to try to terrify him based on the election. He was scared because he was in a Democrat county, which Fulton County is 76% Democrat. So these reasons, the election intimidation tactic, and the fact that he had a personal relationship and fear of Fani Willis, is the reasons why he let her off this case. And why do I say that, or how do I know that? Especially the fear part. Look at how when he had to correct her for her unethical, unprofessional behavior on the stand, where not only would she not answer questions yes or no, like they would ask her, did you or did you not, meet Nathan Wade at this conference? Well, he taught the class, but I didn't meet him. And I could go, I don't even remember, every single question, or honestly, I don't remember a lot of the questions that she was asked in the thing, but I do remember how they would ask her questions and she would give a bunch of answers and go down this winding path, that had telling a lot of stuff that had nothing to do with the question, and the question was a yes or no question. And she kept going down these winding paths, telling these long ass stories to try to deflect away from the question and make people forget what the question even was. Hell, even I remember one question in particular, she went off on one of her tangents and stories, and then when the judge finally corrected her, she had to ask, what was the question again? Because she had spent so long telling a deflection tangent and story that she herself forgot the question. But again, I'm bringing all that up to bring up how when Scott McAfee, the judge, had to correct her, he couldn't even look her in the eye. Like, if you go back and you look at that clip where he corrected her, like, he looked nervous and scared to even correct her, meaning that he still almost looked at her as his boss, even though she wasn't his boss. And if anything, he was her boss in this particular situation. He had the power to remove her from the case. He was the judge. She's an attorney. In the court, he was basically her boss. But yet he was so terrified of her that he couldn't even look her in the eye, and he asked her in the most meek way possible, can you please answer the question? Can you please just answer the question? Like, it was pathetic, okay? So this judge was clearly in fear of Fani Willis, all right, based on his relationship with her, all right, and the fact, like I said, that they were trying to get him up out of office. So, black people, again, just draw the parallel between her behavior on the Rayshard Brooks case, which I believe she was picked and appointed to take Paul Howard's place specifically so she could do what she did to that case, which is why she was begging, even though the judge told her. It'd be one thing if you asked once and then the judge denied you and you went on ahead and took the case, but you begged multiple times to be taken off the case, even though the judge told you don't worry about all those issues, because all those had to do with him. And now that you're on the case, you don't have to take responsibility for none of that. Just like if Fani Willis had been disqualified, the next prosecutor wouldn't have to keep saying, well, Fani Willis was corrupt and this, that, and the other. Please take me off the case. Obviously they could just not take the case, which is what they would do. But if they did take the case, they would, anyway, I digress. But or let's say Fani Willis was off the case based on an election like Paul Howard was when Fani Willis took over for him. The new prosecutor, and let's say all this same disqualification stuff was up in the air, right? With Fani Willis and her lover Nathan Wade, but let's say in the middle of the case or before a decision was even made on whether or not she should be disqualified, somebody else took over the case. The new prosecutor would have no need to try to beg to get off the case, because all the actions that brought the case into question were linked to Fani and her behaviors and her actions. So once she's gone, once Nathan Wade's gone, there's no more question, or even if Nathan Wade wasn't gone and it was just her, there's no more questions about what the motives were, because the main person behind bringing the case, which was Fani Willis, that's why she even hired Nathan Wade, she's no longer a part of the case. So draw that parallel in her behavior and her desperation to be taken off the case because she didn't want to be a witness in her own case, even though she's a witness in her own case this time, and compare that to what she's doing with Donald Trump. The reason why she has this inconsistency between the way she handled Rayshard Brooks and the way she's handling Donald Trump is because certain powers that be, in my opinion, wanted her to do what she did against the Rayshard Brooks and Officer Rolfe case. And powers that be want her, certain liberal powers that be want her to take this case against Trump, because I do believe that this is a politically motivated case. Even though I said Trump is a racist and all that, I still believe that this is a politically motivated case against Trump. These liberals are having have been in a hysteria panic attack from the day Trump took office the first time. And it's been nonstop witch hunts, nonstop lies about Russia. And a lot of it, to me, I believe, is so that they don't have to focus on doing anything for the people, especially their most loyal voter base, which is black people, black Americans. Let's just focus and fearmonger and freak out over Trump instead of actually doing anything that's substantive and benefits our constituencies, especially our most loyal constituency, which is black people. No racial group is more loyal to the Democratic Party than black people are to the Democratic Party. No racial group is as loyal to any party as black people are to the Democratic Party. White people do not vote for Republicans at the percentages that black people vote for Democrats. Latinos do not vote for Republicans or Democrats at the percentages that black people do. Black people, between 80 to 90% of black people vote for Democrats. You might, on a good election, get 55 or 60% of white people to vote for Republicans. There's still a 30% gap. And that's at best 60% of white people vote for Republicans. That's at best. There's still a 30% gap between black people and white people. Latinos, 50 to 60% of them will vote for Democrats, around 60 to 70 actually. But still, there's still a damn 30 to 20% gap between black people and Latinos. Same thing with Asians. Asians only vote for Democrats, I think, at like 30%. There's still like a 20% gap as far as, not 30, but 20% gap between what Asians vote for Republicans and what they vote for, and what black people vote for Democrats. No racial or ethnic group is as loyal to a party as black people are to Democrats. Yet, when a case that has been affecting black Americans, especially prominently in the past decade, a police brutality case, she did everything in her power to get off that case, begging, filing multiple motions to disqualify herself. Again, and I'm emphasizing that and saying that with my chest because the defense is she's fighting against the disqualification this time. She was trying to disqualify herself. And not only did she try once, she tried 3 times to disqualify herself from the case based on someone else's actions, not even her own actions. Yet when it comes to her own actions, she won't get off the case until she's forced to get off the case. Even after she has to fire Nathan Wade, even after multiple people, from the time that this motion was brought, there were people on MSNBC and CNN, legal experts, liberals, saying that she should recuse herself. The same thing that she begged to do in the Rayshard Brooks case, it was already being suggested to her on national TV from the moment that this motion to disqualify her was brought. Then in the middle, when the hearings were happening, there were people getting on TV when this embarrassing testimony from her, from Terrence Bradley, from Nathan Wade, these blatant lies that they were telling on the stand. There were more people saying, hey, she should recuse herself. And now that Nathan Wade has been forcibly removed from the case, there are people saying again, I think his name is Weissman, I believe he's on MSNBC, one of their legal analysts. He said it again. She should recuse herself. So there are multiple people suggesting that you recuse yourself this time. Yet when no one, not even the judge, to the point where he was denying your request multiple times. Twice you got denied to disqualify yourself, and you still kept fighting to disqualify yourself. So we on one hand go from I can't wait to disqualify myself to, on the other hand, I'm not going to disqualify myself until someone forces me, until a judge literally disqualifies me. The reason is because she's doing the bidding of powers that be. Now, do I know who these powers that be are? Of course, I don't know, but I know they're there. She's found that she came out of nowhere conveniently when he's bringing these cases against suspected corrupt criminal officers. They're suspected. Again, I said they're suspected, not confirmed. They're suspected of being corrupt criminal officers. And an issue that is very important to black people, which is how Rayshard Brooks ended up dying anyway, or was suspected of. Not okay. I'm kind of off track now, but anyway, the fact that Rayshard Brooks was a big deal in the first place, or part of the reason why he was a big deal, is because they happened during another nationally famous police brutality case protest of George Floyd. It happened during that time, or shortly after George Floyd was murdered, during the protest period. So that is a case that is of prime importance to black people, because one of the things that we want as far as justice is to stop being killed extrajudiciously, also known as a lynching. That is the definition of a lynching, by the way, is an extrajudicial killing, meaning outside of the law killing. Outside of you being sentenced to death, killing. That's what an extrajudicial murder is. Or that's what a lynching is. It's an extrajudicial murder. So one of the things that has been a big issue to us is the extrajudicial killings of black men. She does everything she can to take herself off that case. Yet when it comes to Donald Trump, she's doing everything she can to stay on the case. And then again, also this, speaking of black people, notice how all of a sudden she's blackety black. I'm not going to emasculate a black man. Oh, why in the church? Oh, why, Lord, did they go after a black man? So all of a sudden she all blackety black. Yet when a case that is of premier importance to black people came up, you're not blackety black so much anymore. You are not anymore, but you weren't so blackety black then. You wasn't all blackety black. You wasn't, I'm not going to emasculate Paul Howard, a black man, by talking about him the way I was talking about him during the campaign. Or, since he's black, I'm not going to run against him to take him off this case. Or even if I do take him off this case, I'm going to make sure to take it up with my full vigor and enthusiasm, because this is a case about black people and about racism. The same so-called racism that she's accusing Trump of now, that's what that case was about. It was about alleged and suspected racism. So when somebody's dead and somebody's family is affected, and in that article, even though I didn't read it, the article ends with comments from Rayshard Brooks' family's lawyers talking about how they hope that the next prosecutor takes up the case and pursues it with the same enthusiasm that Paul Howard would after Fani got herself taken off the case. And of course, no one ever picked it up. Just like no one was going to pick up Fani's case if she got thrown off. So, I don't want to go too long. That's basically all I had to say is just point. I just really had to get on here and point out the hypocrisy. I know I made the video saying I was back and then I never came back. I had planned on coming back. Honestly, and this is just a quick side thing, just to explain my channel and where I've been. I've had some changes going on in my life, and I'll be honest, it's been difficult. Some of the things have been difficult to deal with. So just time and some of the difficulties, even when I had time to probably make videos, just some of the difficulties in my life, I didn't have the motivation. So I do apologize to anyone who was looking forward to and hoping that I would basically keep my word, which I didn't. So I do apologize for that and come back and make videos more often. At this point, I'm not even going to promise any frequency of videos. So if you are watching this video, thank you. Can't guarantee you I'm going to be making a video anytime soon. Might be a month, 2 months, 6 months, who knows, till I make another video. At some point, though, I do plan on coming back and making videos more often. And whenever that happens, people who see it, you see it, and hopefully you subscribe and watch. If you're gone and you never want to come back because I've been so inconsistent, I don't blame you for that either. Thank you for the time that you did support my channel. Again, I don't even know when or if I'm going to make another video at one point, but I do thank those who supported me, especially when I was more active. And again, I will try at some point. I just can't say when or how often that will be. But at some point, like I said, maybe in a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, I'll be more active once again and commenting on things like this once again. So if you do have the patience for that, obviously there's plenty of other channels on YouTube, but if you do have the patience for that, so that at some point when I do come back, you're willing to return and stick around and keep the notifications on, whatever it may be, that's appreciated. But again, if you've left the channel or are never coming back, whatever it may be, I don't blame you for that either, and I appreciate those who were here before, and that's whether you stay around or come back ever in the future again, or don't come back to my channel ever in the future again. I do appreciate the support and the time that you did give my channel, especially when it was more active. So with that, I'll say like, share, subscribe, and at some point I will be producing content. Like I said, I just don't know when or how long that's going to take from now. So anyway, like, share, subscribe, and that's another video, and peace. I'm out.
You say, Miss Willis, Judge Willis, what law did he violate? A few, but let's try this on for size. OCGA 45-11-5, extortion, subsection A. As used in this code section, the term extortion means an unlawful taking by a public law officer under color of his office from any person of any money or thing of value that is not due to him or more that is due to him. Any public officer shall be by himself, his deputy, or his agent, or other person employed by him be guilty of extortion in receiving other and greater fees than by law are allowed him, shall be guilty of a misdemeanor, and repeat this part for me, and shall be dismissed from office. Not maybe, shall be dismissed from office.